one of the most prophetic visions I ever had feels like it's starting to come true. See, this vision occurred in a ceremony back in March of 2020. Now, if you remember your history and you remember that timeline, that date has some significance. See, at that time in March of 2020, we were at the very beginning stages of the virus that shall not be named. And there was a lot of fear around what's going on. Is this virus legit? And so at this time, I was scheduled to help in a ceremony. And even though I was pretty skeptical of this virus from the beginning, at that time, I was still a little confused and wondering, is this a good idea? Should we be going through with this? Should we still be hosting ceremony? And there were a lot of people close to me telling me that I should not go, that this is stupid, that you don't know what you're doing, but the show must go on, right? Or at least that was the decision that was made. It wasn't my decision, but I decided to help out. And it was one of the stranger ceremonies that I've ever been involved with. And I've been involved with a lot. And mainly because you could just feel the amount of fear in the room. But everybody that showed up all shared the same thoughts, right? Everybody was kind of on the same wavelength of, should we be here? Is this a good idea? How bad is this thing? Is this thing what they say it is? And I've never felt so much fear in the room. But to everyone's credit, people showed up and they rose to the challenge and they faced their fear. And in general, everyone had a very good weekend. So going back to my vision, what I saw was two worlds. And this vision was very vivid and felt very real. But what I saw, or what was shown to me, was two worlds. And one world was this industrial cityscape. It was large skyscrapers and technology and computers, cell phones and internet, essentially like a Ready Player One type of world where everybody is not only living in a city that is devoid of nature, but everybody is fully plugged into the system. Everybody's fully plugged into the matrix. And it's dark and it's cold, but it's very technologically advanced. And then the other world I was shown was this world of nature. And it was beautiful. It was green and it was lush. And there were fields of grass and trees and people living in a more community type of lifestyle. It was very beautiful, but it was also somewhat primitive. And as I was being shown these two worlds, I was asked, or I was told, that you are going to have to make a choice. You're going to have to choose which world you live in. And after seeing those two worlds, the world of beautiful nature and the world of a very dystopian, utopian urban landscape, you might think the answer is obvious, right? Well, of course, you're going to choose that beautiful natural world where people are living in community and harmony. But there was a caveat, and it said, once you make this decision, there is no going back. Whichever world you choose is the world you will stay in. And for example, the natural world was very primitive. And so I was told, if you choose that world, you will never board a plane again. You will no longer have access to the internet. You will be devoid of a lot of modern conveniences. Whichever choice you make is for life. You can no longer have one foot in and one foot out. See, because that's how I feel I've always lived, and that's how I still feel that I'm living. That I have one foot in the natural world, the plant medicine world, the world outside of the matrix, and I have another foot that's still plugged in to the matrix. And I've gone back and forth on this idea of, is it possible to be completely unplugged? And I don't know, right? I've talked about this before, but even in the matrix, the whole idea was to remove yourself from the matrix, to free your mind, to deprogram yourself, and then relearn who you can be, and then actually plug back into the matrix and use the rules and laws that govern the matrix to better yourself and to manipulate the program for your own betterment and to help those who are trapped. And in some ways, that feels more real to me. That feels like truth. So the idea of being completely disconnected is scary. And I don't know if it's possible. I mean, it is possible, obviously, because there are people that do it. There are indigenous cultures who are pretty much completely unplugged. But it comes down to this idea that, is all technology bad? Because obviously, despite what the 3 or 4 people on Facebook who argue with any of my controversial posts would believe, I actually love technology. In fact, you are listening or watching this video as a result of technology. And so technology is not bad. It's a tool, but just like all tools, how was it used? Is it used for the betterment of yourself and for the betterment of humanity, or is it used for corruption and manipulation and to prevent people from reaching higher states of potential? But despite those two choices, my answer was still obvious. Given those two choices, I chose the natural world, or at least that's what I would choose. So after the ceremony ended and we continued to progress during 2020 and the virus that shall not be named, things started to get more and more authoritarian, right? A schmack. And just so you know, the reason I'm talking like this and not naming these things, because YouTube is still censoring speech about these very specific things. The virus that shall not be named, and the thing that was said was going to be safe and effective. If you mention these things, you get strikes, or your entire video will get pulled. And I'm completely against censorship on all levels. The freedom of speech is one of the most powerful freedoms we have. It's kind of funny because with this whole Jimmy Kimmel thing that went down a couple weeks ago, there were so many people who were acting like this is the first time the government has censored someone. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, well, YouTube is a private company. They're not the government. They can censor whoever they want. Come on now. Who are we kidding? If you know, you know. YouTube follows orders from the government. This has all been proven. But anyway, I digress. I just bring all that up as when I talk about certain things, unfortunately, I am having to self-censor my own speech. But as we were progressing in the 2020s, it became more and more authoritarian. And there were lockdowns. And then came what I thought was going to be essentially the division that I was shown in my vision. They required identification cards, right? And you had to show these to go to restaurants, to fly on a plane, to essentially interact in public. And me being who I am and knowing what I knew was not going to play that game. And so I thought, well, this vision is coming true, and it looks like I'm going to have to make that decision sooner than later. But thankfully, by the grace of God, those passports, those identification cards, they weren't enforced for very long, which was a huge surprise to me. I thought once they instituted those, because if you've been in the conspiracy game for a while, you know something like that is coming. It's essentially a social credit score. This is the big conspiracy, that they will have some sort of system to keep you in check, to make sure you follow the rules, to make sure you do what you are told, right? To make sure that you are a good cog in the machine. But thankfully, those passports were not enforced. So time went on and things kind of went back to normal. And most people have even forgotten about that time, probably on purpose, because it was a very hard time and a very embarrassing time, how we all acted and how we all just fell in line. Most of that has been put behind us and we've kind of forgotten about this. And so why do I think my vision now is coming true? Because I thought, well, maybe that vision was wrong. But now, what I feel like, if you watched my video about the fourth turning, that in about 2030, we are scheduled to enter a new season, a new spring, a time of new growth. A new world order is going to spring up. Is that new world order going to be good or bad? Well, that is still to be determined. But what I'm realizing is that with the rise of AI and the advancement of technology, it seems like the choice is not going to be necessarily what world you live in, but are you on team technology or team humanity? Are you going to choose to plug into the matrix? Are you going to choose to get microchipped? Are you going to choose to receive all your wisdom and guidance and health information from the machine? Or are you going to put your trust and faith in the natural world, in humanity? And this is going to be a tough choice because, again, I'm a big fan of technology, but I also feel like certain technology can hold us back. And I also believe that there is a technology in nature that has been lost, right? That there was some sort of technology or knowledge that our ancient ancestors were able to tap into. And it's how the pyramids were built, or a lot of these ancient structures, from the ancient beautiful cathedrals to some of these old buildings, that there seemed to be a energetic frequency that humanity was able to tap into, and there was a way to gain knowledge from the universe, whether that is the Akashic records. And see, I want to believe that that is true. And right now, that's kind of where I'm at. I am trying to put my faith and trust in this natural world, in trying to tap into things like the universal wisdom that exists, that has propelled humanity into golden ages in the past. And I think 2030 feels like in the next few years is when this decision is going to have to be made. That technology is going to advance to a certain point where you are going to see people choosing to plug in, choosing to fully embrace the machine. And it's going to be sold on the basis of convenience and safety. And you're not going to want to be left out. When all your friends are microchipped, you're not going to be the one who is left out. So I don't know. We've got interesting times ahead, and all you can do is enjoy the ride. But right now, I'm on team humanity. Maybe that will change, but I think there is a power and a potential in certain energetic frequencies that we can tap into, but we just forgot, or they've been suppressed. Anyway, let me know what you think. Are you on team humanity or team technology? See you on the other side.